Hey everybody, my name is Isaac. This is the Colony Drop podcast where we talk about everything regarding Gundam, from the models to the shows to anything else that's new and interesting. I'm here with my co-pilot, Brian.
Hello everybody. All right, Isaac, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about a very special topic. It's the what if episode. Maybe the first of many what if episodes, Brian. What if such and such happened within the 1 year war? How would that change the outcome of the war? How would that change the lives of many of our characters? That's today's topic, what if scenarios.
I love it. Those are endless.
It's kind of like we're writing alternate history in a way. There's a lot of different things that could have gone one way or the other during the 1 year war. For all listeners, we will be talking about 1 year war today, not other series, but not necessarily just the original show, Mobile Suit Gundam. We'll be talking about really any side story or events that were happening during the 1 year war.
Yeah, so I think we have two topics in mind for today. So what is the first what if scenario?
Brian, the first what if scenario is what would have happened if the Gundam Alex, which, as our listeners surely remember, was the Gundam from 0080, War in the Pocket. What would have happened if that successfully reached Amuro Ray intact?
So let's give a quick rundown on the Gundam Alex, just in case anyone doesn't remember. So the Gundam Alex was a Gundam that began development right basically when the RX-78 that Amuro was piloting was sort of entering the final testing phase. And eventually its purpose was to be delivered to Amuro towards the end of the war, when his new type abilities were causing him to sort of outstrip the reaction speed of the RX-78. He was just too quick, that little that
faster than a speeding bullet.
I just have this image. I think there's a part in like the original series where he's like moving those. I don't know what you. Those, I guess they weren't joysticks. They were like levers kind of thing where he like moved them back and forth. And see him just moving them up and down and getting frustrated that it wasn't moving at his speed.
It's so slow.
It just won't work. So anyway, this thing it moved faster and it was made for new types. But the issue was, as we saw in 0080 War in the Pocket, one member of the Cyclops team, one of the main characters, Bernie Wiseman, managed to sort of not destroy the Gundam Alex, but disable it enough that it was too damaged to get to Amuro quickly enough, and then about a week later the war ended. So
put it this way, if you're trying to return it to the store, they wouldn't let you. Even if you had the receipt, they're not taking it back. It looks worn. Clearly something happened. You're not getting your money back. Tough luck. It's missing a head. Got chopped up by a heat hawk.
I mean, pretty much that's the only thing wrong with it. I mean, maybe some other minor damage, but I would say the main thing is they chopped the head off. So
if only they treated the Gundam Alex like they did the 08 Ace Teams Gundams, where they just have Gundam heads laying around. They can just slap them on something and send it out into battle.
Well, Isaac, how did you approach this what if?
Okay, the Gundam Alex, for our listeners, it's almost an improvement on every level of the original Gundam. On top of that, it has magnetic joints, if I'm correct, Brian. Its joints
like a magnetic
coated, or something like that, in a magnetic alloy, and that, if I'm understanding right, reduced friction, so it really would have a much faster reaction time. On top of that, it also had the Chobam armor, that great blocky-looking armor that was more or less disposable, but it'll definitely save the Gundam's life and integrity if it got blasted for a while. Based on that information I just ranted, I would say that if Amuro Ray was piloting that in a Bawaku, it would have meant that the Zeon would not have stood a chance. It was already close when the Zeon was fighting the regular Gundam, but with the Gundam Alex, I think Char would have been killed in combat in that final battle. What do you think, Brian?
I tend to agree. I don't know if he would have been killed, but he certainly probably would have lost much earlier. And so I think that creates a variety of scenarios, not only in a Baoku, but before that. So one thing, when I was trying to figure out what the impact of this would be, I had to look up like the actual timeline of the 1 year war. And I had forgotten how compressed it was. Basically, the start of the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, I think, is in September of 0079. And the war ends basically in December 31st or January 1st, whatever you want to call it. So really, what you're seeing takes place over about 4 months total. Right. And so that's not a lot of time. So then I've started thinking, like, was it even feasible to deliver the Alex to Amuro?
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Because it's so compressed, right? Like if the war ends in 4 months and the first Gundam rolled out in September, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to get another one up and running. But
okay, all right.
Yeah,
I have a question, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, looking at your little timeline, what? God, I guess this is hard to know. Okay, let's say the Cyclops team wasn't at Raya, or they were defeated or something, and the Alex was okay. Pretty much what you've just said. Is there time to meet up with the white base, or is it at that point in time the white base is already at a Baoku or Solomon?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how long it would take to get from Side 6 to either Solomon or a Baoku. I mean, I think either Solomon or Baoku is really where you're trying to get the Alex at that point. Because so this is the timeline. So the RX-78, which Amuro is piloting, that was in the final testing phase in August, and then I think it was picked up by the white base in September. Also in August, though, that's when development of the Alex began. Now, back then, I don't know they really knew too much about new types, so I don't know if it was specifically for new types at that point.
So the Alex goes into production after getting combat data from the Gundam, right?
Amuro Ray's pilot data was used in its development, yeah. At what point, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, it would have to be at least a few months into using the Gundam, I would imagine, for it to be useful, right?
I see. So even if the Federation wasn't too on the up and up about new types to the level Zeon was, then they're probably going off data that shows that the Gundam is reacting too slow, and that's why they need magnetic joints so they can just move lightning fast. Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So then on December 9th, the Cyclops team arrives at the Arctic base in Canada, where they are trying to ship the Alex out to Side 6. The Alex arrives in Side 6 at the Libo. I guess, do they pronounce it Libot or Libo? I always assumed it was Libo.
I thought it was Libot.
Okay.
I did not put the French pronunciation.
Libo.
Monsieur Brian.
I don't remember what they said.
Le Gundam.
Le Gundam.
Le Zeon, they're attacking the colony.
He paints give it a little mustache.
Libo. Would you like a croissant with your beam saber? I apologize to our Francophile listeners.
Maybe if it was a French developed Gundam, no, I won't go down that path. But
with our friends at Mobile Fighter G Gundam.
I was gonna say like it would refuse to work after 5 p.m. or something. It would like go home early.
Every once in a while, it like overthrows its government. We love you, France. We're streaming from America, and we couldn't have built this country without you. So I'd like to thank France and all the Francophiles for your ancestors' assistance. Vive la France. Vive Le Gundam.
So once again, the Alex leaves Canada on December 9th. It arrives in Side 6 at the Libot colony on December 12th. So 4 days to get from Canada to Side 6. On December 19th is when the Cyclops team tries to destroy the Alex with the Kempfer.
Right.
And so I think it's important to note at this point, I think that's the first time that the Alex is like activated. So on December 19th, the Alex is, we know for sure, functional. Like because it got up, Christina used the Gatling guns. She engaged the Kempfer. Everything went fine. No problems.
Boy, they lucked out because they didn't have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, if she didn't jet out of the way.
That's like, I don't know, like a celebrity or something. Like the bodyguards got killed, so the celebrity has to like pick up the gun and start fighting. Like, what could go wrong? We've got like a gyms and we've got a Pegasus class nearby. Nothing can get to the Gundam. Oh my god! They
literally had the best GMs of the war, and got shot out of the sky by a drunk Russian.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Good old Mikhail. So that's December 19th. So Universal Century fans will know that the Battle of Solomon takes place on Christmas Eve, December 24th. So that means if you want Amuro to have the Alex for Solomon, you need to get it to him within 5 days from Side 6.
I think that's doable in the Earth sphere. I'm going to take a gamble and say it's doable. Although, any technical fans, please comment as far as the speed of a Salamis or a Magellan, and then the distance between certain Lagrange points in the Earth sphere.
Right.
We'll look that up later for our technical episode.
I definitely agree with you. I think it's definitely doable to get it there in 5 days. The only issue is it's probably doable if you take a straight course, but who knows what's in your way at that point? Like, is that through Zeon territory? Yeah. Is it through Federation territory? No idea. Do you have to go the long way around? I'm not really sure. I guess we would need some maps or something to figure that out. But that's really when you'd have to take it, because the Alex is damaged in combat on Christmas. And so the Battle of Solomon happened the day before. So who even knows if news of the Battle of Solomon even reached the Leibot colony that day? They could have still even been fighting.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Okay, you're Zeon. You just found out the Cyclops team failed, and the Gundam Alex may be lightly damaged, but it's still operational, and it will be en route to the Gundam's current pilot. What do you do? Do you scramble like a bunch of Musais with nukes, and you just violate the Outer Space Treaty? And
that's what they planned to do in the last episode of Double 80.
I know, but that failed. So do you try again and try to like intercept it on the way to Solomon, where the fleet will be, or do you kind of cut your losses and say, you know what, that Gundam's gonna get to that pilot. There's nothing we can do about it. We rolled our dice.
It's certainly an interesting question. I think, given if the war had not ended, we probably would have found an answer to that, right?
Yeah.
The war ended 5 days later, 6 days later. So I think that means the first pivotal, like, what if point then is, let's assume that the Alex was delivered to Amuro within the 5 days between the attempted destruction of the Alex by the Cyclops team on December 19th and the Battle of Solomon on December 24th. Yeah. So in the Battle of Solomon, Zeon loses pretty handily due to basically just a swarm of gyms and the use of the solar system. So the Alex arriving there is not going to change the outcome. It certainly seems like a win more scenario, right?
Yeah.
So I would say it won't change the Battle of Solomon. The Federation's still going to win. I guess the one key death that could be avoided is at the Battle of Solomon, if we're assuming we're talking about the White Base crew, Slegger Law, he died in battle against the Big Zom. He had Amuro dock with his G-Fighter, and they got in close so Amuro could fire at the Big Zom, because the Big Zom had a eye field which deflected beam weaponry at a certain distance. So that would be the only thing I see changing there. Potentially, if Amuro had the Alex, maybe he could not necessarily have to do that dangerous maneuver with Slegger. But I mean, Slegger was kind of a hotshot pilot. He may have suggested the same maneuver anyway, and maybe died in a similar fashion. So I don't think anything really changes for Battle of Solomon. But like you said, I think the main changes come after that, either on December 30th or the 31st. So the 30th is when Amuro accidentally kills Lala fighting Char.
I forgot about her. Listeners, I'm not a Char supporter. Her death was perhaps more meaningless than many other pilots in our illustrious history at Side 3.
Isaac is a Zabi supporter through and through.
Yeah. Victory for Degwin.
By the way, did you know that Degwin's flagship was named the Great Degwin?
Yeah, and that is the pinnacle of arrogance. Oh my god.
Oh, I read that and I don't know why I hadn't internalized that before, but that was amazing when I read that today.
I can't think of anything in history that compares to that.
Right? It'd be like Donald Trump naming an aircraft carrier that he rides on the Great Donald.
The Great Trump. Big Trump.
Yeah, the Big Trump. And you know what? That seems like something he would do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like right before he leaves office or something, like it's a gold aircraft carrier. It's the fanciest, most luxurious carrier in the fleet. It's going to be huge.
During that fight, I guess you could assume that maybe if Amuro has the Alex, he could have maybe killed Char or defeated Char faster, which would maybe have allowed Lala to survive. Because during that battle, Amuro already had Char's Gelgoog kind of on the ropes. This was like a very sort of chaotic battle between Amuro. It was like Amuro and Sayla versus Lala and Char. And so if Lala survived, I don't really know what would happen. I mean, she was still... It wasn't like she stopped fighting or anything. I mean, she was fighting on Char's side as sort of like out of appreciation for him sort of saving her life, I think. And so even if Amuro had killed Char, I don't know that she would have reacted positively right? She could have just stopped fighting, but there's also a possibility that she would have been upset and maybe lashed out, and maybe Amuro still would have had to fight her. But it does seem like there'd be a good chance of Amuro taking out Char faster, which resulted in maybe Lala surviving. What happens after that, I'm not really sure. I don't know that Lala would have continued working with Zeon. I don't know that she really would have joined the Federation per se either, though. I don't know. What do you think?
On the first point, I'm going to go a step further and say Char dies in this timeline because he came, even in the Zeon, he came so close to dying already against the Gundam. So in a Gundam Alex, Amuro would win. He just would outpace him, outmaneuver him, outfight him, and kill him. As for Lala, I can't think of a situation where there's going to be like a mobile armor defecting to the Federation and not getting shot in the chaos of Solomon and the chaos of a Baoku.
Yeah.
The GMs are they're gonna light that thing up the moment they see it heading towards the fleet. Even if a Gundam's next to it, I don't think they're gonna care. Oh god, it's a mobile armor. Quick, open fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's probably fair. I don't know that she would defect, but even if she did, would she really be fighting with that much conviction? But you're right, though. If she did defect, the Federation would gain what I think it would be its first mobile armor. I'm not aware. I can't think of anyone offhand that they had developed.
No, but I'd imagine the Federation would have a low opinion of mobile armors anyway, since they put everything into Gundams, and by then they just have the combat data that shows that Gundams slap around mobile armors whenever they want. So
might be a little skewed, but yeah.
Lala just would want a hug in that timeline, I think, if she survived. Yeah, she'd want to get on the weight base, and then hopefully Amuro comes back and gives her a hug, and that's about it.
Yeah, fair enough. So, but like you said, I think the real inflection point is at a Baoku. At the Battle of Baoku, Amuro duels with Char, this time in the Zeon. And, like you said, Amuro, he already had the upper hand. But I don't know that, well, the main thing that happened in a Baoku that could be changed is Char killed Kycilia after the Zeon was destroyed. Like, he got out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made his way through the base. He talked to Amuro. He had a big argument with Amuro and Sayla, and they yelled at each other. And then he went on. He said, I'm not going to let the zombies get away. And he went and killed Kycilia. So if Amuro had the Alex and he was able to maybe kill Char faster or at a different spot, perhaps, before they had landed on a Baoku, that means that Char wouldn't have been able to kill Kycilia.
Yeah, that's actually one of my little what if possible scenarios I wrote down. What if Char died on his way to trying to kill Kycilia? Because if you recall from the episode, when Char's in the base and he like picks up a gun or whatever, and he's finally heading towards like the hangar bay where Kycilia is leaving in a Zanzibar. Like the base is pretty much blowing up around him. One of those exploding walls could easily have taken him out,
right.
And he never would have got to the hangar bay. So what happens in the timeline where the Amuro in the Gundam Alex kills Char, and then Kycilia gets away to the moon? She makes it to Luna?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's almost entirely that's a whole nother what if scenario. But I agree that this scenario of Amuro getting the Alex makes that scenario much more likely, because the whole reason that she was escaping, I think she said something like, as long as I survive, then Zeon survives. So if she survives, then the zombie version of Zeon lives on in a much more direct fashion, right? I mean, I know we have Mineva and all that stuff, but Mineva doesn't exactly have the conviction, I'll call it conviction, that Kycilia does. That would have rewritten the next at least 7 years.
Possibly not. I'll challenge you on that, and here's why. Let's say this timeline's happening, right? And we're at a Baoku. Mineva is not even there. She's probably going to be like 18 months or something at Side 3.
I think less than that. I think she's born during the war, so she's less than a year old at this point.
Oh, okay. So she's not even a toddler yet. She's either at Side 3 or, for all we know, Dozel gave her instructions that don't even stay at Side 3, get to Axis. So she's out of the picture. Kycilia on Luna, I think that would actually lead to a Zeon split. Because if you remember, Side 3 pretty much declares itself a republic, I think hours or the same day of a Baoku after Zeon's defeated, or I think maybe the day after. And then they immediately, sue for peace with the Federation. Cassilia on Luna would be so isolated. What can Zeon have still on Luna? Sure, they might have, some units and mobile suits presumably loyal to Cassilia because she was the head honcho of the moon. That was her base. There's no way either the people of Luna would probably actively rise up as soon as they know that the war's pretty much over. And besides, the Federation, after a Baoku, they're in visible distance of Site 3. So, I mean, if she's lucky, she'll be a prisoner of war and she could possibly get killed or presumably executed for crimes against humanity. I think that's more likely.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to consider how someone like Delaz would align with Cassilia.
No, not at all. Remember, he booked it the moment he found out Giran died. He took his whole fleet away from the battle, which made things worse for Zeon.
Yeah.
In summary, the major change I think the Gundam Alex causes is the death of Char, in my opinion. Maybe it still would have been a close fight and Char lives. Maybe not. I'm going to say Char doesn't live. But other than that, I still see the one-year war ending with the defeat of Zeon and definitely the loss of power of the Zombies.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't change the outcome of the war, but I think it makes the defeat of Char earlier in some form or fashion more likely, which indirectly leads to Cassilia not dying. Or at least not dying the way that she did die, which was a rocket to the face.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. If her head doesn't get cut off there, it'll maybe get cut off at Jabrow after a tribunal.
The other thing I'll call out that would have been different is maybe a more indirect outcome of this. Tell me what happens here, Isaac. If you're the white base and they come and they tell you, here's another Gundam, what do you still have?
What do you mean, what do you still have? Well,
you still have the old Gundam.
Yeah, that's true.
So who pilots the old Gundam?
That's a great question.
I think you give it to Sayla.
Would she take it?
Well, your other choice is Kai, and I don't see Kai piloting a Gundam.
I can see him doing that, but hang on. Oh, man. Okay, I just had a vision in my head. You imagine both Gundams, the Gundam Alex and the old one.
The old one.
I don't know what would they refer to it. They'd call that one. They'd call one the Alex, and they'd call the other one the.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to come up with a different name.
The original, the OG. Yeah. Okay, so they're both on the battlefield.
The old stinky one.
Yeah. Oh man, can you imagine like the situation where Char goes into combat, sees the original Gundam, and Sayla not being a pilot like Amuro on his level, Char kills Sayla.
Oh, interesting.
Oh my God, Char he might kill himself.
Yeah. The thing just resolves itself. See?
Yeah. Man, nobody wins there. Amuro would be like destroyed himself. He would be so crushed.
Yeah, he'd blame himself.
Oh God, everybody would lose in that situation even more. Oh my God.
But then that got me thinking, okay, let's see. If you assume that the original Gundam would have gone to Sayla, which I think probably makes sense. Yeah. We had been talking a lot about Sayla in terms of what her role hypothetically would be in the Gundam live action movie. That brought up an interesting thought in my head of like, again, assuming 1 year war time frame and assuming same basic character structures, I think we both agree both Sayla and Amuro are probably in there somehow.
Yeah, hopefully.
Are we going to have more than one Gundam in this movie or just one?
I feel like we should have just one. I would understand if we have more than one because, as the model kits have shown, you sell more toys when there's lots of different kinds of Gundams. But I feel like that'd be a mistake on our first movie out. It'd be nice to focus on one Gundam and the awe and power that one Gundam can do compared to other mobile suits. But I'd be happy and intrigued if at the end of the credits there's a stinger where they show other Gundams. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's probably smarter to focus on one. But I'm just imagining this. Maybe you don't have two until the very end. And this sort of scenario actually plays out. Because it could be one of those real female empowerment moments where, Sayla gets a Gundam. And, she shows up. So I don't know, something to think about, but
maybe, or for all we know, there's still going to be one Gundam, but maybe the male lead, if it's Amuro, will be incapacitated or something, and they'll show that a female pilot is just as capable as a male pilot, and the whole team works together and sacrifices for each other, and as long as the Gundam's on the battlefield, Zeon's gonna wet its pants going into combat.
It's gonna lose, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's our opinion. I think Char dies, Cassilia lives. Okay. So what is our second topic today, Isaac?
We're also going to talk about how Zeon could have achieved victory. Maybe, well, I'm not sure.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Brian, do you have any thoughts on how Zeon could have achieved victory much more earlier on in the war?
Yeah, so I came up
ahead.
with 3 ideas of how they could have won the war. And you can tell me how realistic they are since, you're the Zeon expert here.
Do it.
Number 1, kill Amuro Ray. So he was directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of Rambaral, the Black Tri-Stars, Makuve, Shaliabul, Lala, Dozel, and Cresselia.
Oh my god. Amuro Ray is the John Wick of the 1 year war.
He took down 142 mobile suits and 9 capital ships. He's the second highest. The Federation's second. Yeah, there's another guy named Teneth Jung who had, I think, 149 mobile suits and only 3 ships, but he had slightly more mobile suit kills than Amuro did.
God, there should be something above ace, because I think, I'm not sure. Oh, I'm about to get angry comments from members of the military in the comment section. If I'm correct, if you shoot down 6 enemies, you're considered an ace, I believe. I'm not sure if that's European Air Forces or the United States Air Force.
That sounds right to me. I know it's a low number relative to this number that we're quoting here. like substantially lower.
We're gonna get angry comments from like Gulf War veterans
and
we Bosnian War veterans, like, low number.
We're not trying to get the number exactly right. We just want to show that it's relatively low compared to what transpired in this, albeit fictional war.
So what you're saying, Brian, is mobile suits pilots are better than our patriotic pilots? Is that what you're saying? Our Air Force pilots?
Apparently, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Killing Amuro Ray would have massively changed the outcome. Would it have?
I'm not sure that you can point to one thing and say this would have won them the war, but it certainly would have helped if Amuro Ray was not around, right? Because if you think about it, just any of those people, like Rambaral, you lost a great tactician and an ace pilot there. The Black Tri-Stars, you lost 3 excellent ace pilots. Makuve, again, ace pilot. Shaliabul, that guy had a new type mobile armor. He could have done serious damage at either Solomon or Baoku. I don't remember if it happened after Solomon or before.
I think it was after Solomon.
It's after Solomon. So at a Baoku, he could have just run through the gyms with no real opposition. He took out Dozel at Solomon. Dozel was just mowing people down. He had no real competition. If he doesn't die, Dozel just takes on everyone by himself, pretty much. I mean, he just uses that big like beam cannon in the middle of the big Zom to just kind of. Oh, here comes some gyms. Let me just shoot them down. I mean, really, what are the gyms going to do against the big Zom?
You know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate / Federation advocate here. I'm going to actually say that the death of Amuro Ray, for all we know, let's say he gets killed in, the first episode or something, right? Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't even reach the Gundam or something. Maybe they get it out, but he's left behind on the colony, or he's killed somehow in the chaos.
Right.
I'm going to say that the war is extended, but it would still end the same way, just based on economies of scale, really. The Federation will just, in the end, ultimately outman and outproduce Zeon in mobile suits, and maybe it turns into the 2-year war, but ultimately the Federation's victorious, I think.
That's probably fair. I think it's interesting, because if Amuro Ray dies, then maybe whoever pilots the Gundam either doesn't do as well, or maybe because Amuro Ray dies a little bit earlier, maybe the Federation doesn't begin mass production of gyms with such a vigor or anticipation. Because like they're mass producing these things because they're saying, oh look, Amuro's kicking the crap out of these guys. Let's make scaled down versions of what he's doing and just launch them everywhere. So maybe if the Gundam doesn't do that well, maybe they don't launch the gym fast enough, and like you said, maybe the 1-year war becomes 2 years, 5 years. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, depending on it, whether it's Amuro dying and the Gundam being given another pilot and still going on to victory and outperforming Zeon generally, or if it's the Gundam being destroyed, we might see the Federation doubling down on, say, maybe they focus on creating a lot more solar systems. Maybe they can build something completely different than a Gundam to try to fight Zeon. Hard to say, really, but I would ultimately feel like the loss of that prototype, knowing that they had, production also going on. I mean, well, not necessarily the loss of that prototype, but the death of Amuro wouldn't have been as monumental of a change as most people would think, really. There's other Gundams in production, like we saw the 08 MS team. They would still have gym cannons that could, maybe not do as well as the Gundams, but they would definitely still be able to cause Zeon some problems. I think the Federation ultimately wins, even if it's a bit more difficult.
Okay, my second idea is to strike faster. This, I think, is really the only thing that would allow them to win the war. So Zeon had one main advantage, and that was mobile suits. But as time went on, they lost that advantage. And when you don't have the people advantage, and you lose the only advantage you have, you're right. Eventually, you're just going to lose. So Zeon had the edge in combat by far until the gym came out, right? Now, I'm not counting the Gundam because, again, like you said, Amuro's only one guy. He can't be everywhere at once. So if that's how you're going to win the war, then you need to go win the war while you have that advantage. So I don't know if that means they needed to take out key Federation targets faster, or maybe all at once, or all within a short amount of time. But they sort of had their window of opportunity and they lost it. Like, they let it go. Once the GM came out, that was kind of it. Maybe they should have struck the manufacturing facilities for the GMs or something. But during a Bao coup, I think Cassilia even asks, "Oh, why are the Gelgoogs doing so poorly?" And I think someone tells her, like, "Oh, because they're all being piloted by students." Because at that point, the Zeon's they're out of people. They're out of pilots. They're all dead.
What a terrible question. Like, during an epic battle, possibly the most important battle.
Might be a little late to be asking that question.
She must have, I'm sure in her mind, she immediately realized the implications of asking that question.
So yeah, I think if they were going to win, they would have needed to play to their strength. And that means using the mobile suit advantage while they had it. They had it, they didn't use it, therefore they lose. What do you think about that?
I agree, but I feel like Zeon's whole goal was try to end things quicker and do the first strike. But it's just that they ran out of manpower early on, really. That's why Rebel was able to give his Zeon his exhausted speech almost right before the series begins. And yeah, I feel like Zeon maybe lost the ability to strike faster. I mean, they were relying on the Cyclops team, really, to do what seemingly could have also been done by a whole fleet seizing Side 6. But by that point, they didn't have a whole fleet that could be spared to seize Side 6. They didn't have a ton of mobile suits that could have been spared to go and, secure that whole side for Zeon. Even though Raya was neutral, I mean, the end goal anyway was ruling the whole Earth sphere. So I feel like maybe they could have been more surgical with their power, but they lost so many units at Battle of Loam. I think Zeon was more exhausted earlier on than it would seem.
Okay, so then that brings me to number 3. Perhaps you do number 3 simultaneously with number 2. So will this win the war if you both do number 2, which was strike faster, and number 3, break the Antarctic Treaty?
Ooh, break the Antarctic Treaty.
So, and keep in mind, Zeon was already prepared to do this because they were about to nuke the Libot colony at Side 6 to get rid of the Alex.
That's
so after
true.
After the Cyclops team failed, what did they say? They said, okay, well, we can't have that thing getting out. Go nuke it. Now, again, I guess technically Side 6 was neutral. Does that count, breaking the Antarctic Treaty? I'm not sure because you're not nuking the opposition. But I think the Antarctic Treaty did say you must respect neutral colonies. So
yeah,
let's assume that breaks the Antarctic Treaty.
I would assume it definitely broke the spirit of the treaty.
Yeah, certainly. I think maybe not. Legally, no, but you're right. Certainly, the spirit of it is just shattered.
Yeah, I don't think Raya sent a representative to Antarctica. Yeah. And I don't think they were invited, but I'm sure it would be considered breaking the treaty.
But I mean, I'm sure there's a Zeon strategist somewhere, and he's got a graph, and he's seeing how quickly his pilots are dying, And
Yeah.
if they find out, okay, this Gundam thing is really working out for the Federation, they're going to start making more of these. Don't you then say, you know what? We're going to lose if we don't make one big push to just nuke or use biological chemical weapons on every important Federation site at the same time, and maybe drop a colony at the same time. And that way, Federation can't answer on all fronts and just do more damage.
Yeah, I have two pieces of information that address this. Well, technically three, but two. Okay, number one, if you recall in Odessa, Makuve, he fires a nuke to try to buy time, but the Gundam destroys it. It destroys it in like midair. So they fired a nuclear missile. I think he told Revel that we're gonna, you better stop this attack, or we'll break the Antarctic Treaty or whatever. I think Rebel famously didn't reply and just like motioned to continue the attack. So Makuve fired one nuke, but the Gundam swats it out of the air. Yeah.
That darn Amuro Ray again.
Yeah, in pure Gundam fashion, it one-shots that nuke and it explodes in a non-nuclear controlled way. I also remember reading that Girin, going over Caecilia's head, gave strict order to Makuve that in the event of a Zeon retreat from, I think, Earth, or at least North America, the ICBMs on Earth were to be used against all major cities. But but Makuve, being such an appreciator of art and culture, determined that would be an atrocity on its own. And I think he also wanted to, him and Caecilia seem to appreciate art. So I think that would have been frowned upon by her if he went through with that. So there were a few chances where nukes could have gone off on Earth, and that might have changed things a lot. Getting to my third point, Zeon was clearly willing to empty out a colony to build a solar ray. So they were willing to give up a colony to make a super weapon. Clearly chose the solar ray over dropping that colony. I think the colony was called Mahal. Man, could they have... Okay, it's at Baoku. They just emptied out a colony. If they drop it from there, would that have won the war if it gets to Earth? Or
I don't know. Maybe the reason that they chose the colony laser is because you could reuse that. You could hit multiple targets with it, right? Assuming you could reuse it.
That's true.
Now I know Girin burnt it out and everything, but
God.
If you didn't burn it out, you could continually shoot it, right?
It's true. He probably would have toasted the fleet there, heading towards the Baoku, right?
Right.
Maybe toasted Solomon because they just lost it, and then I'm not sure the range on that. Brian, you're a bit more skilled in astronomical science than I am. Is it feasible that from the distance behind the moon, you could have fired a beam of such energy at Earth that it could destroy military targets? Or is that not really feasible? The Earth is,
That would require a lot of calculations that I am not prepared to make.
Brian, we count on you for this level of strategic detail.
I will have to spend hours on MAHQ to figure this out, but I would guess that probably not. It's probably not feasible.
If you're a military scientist, please comment below. Add to the comments if you feel like a solar weapon behind the moon would be able to damage targets on Earth. I'm going to go with that it's too far, and the atmosphere does such a good job of keeping our planet safe from radiation. There's just no way that anything harmful would have reached the Earth. Maybe they'll see a bright flash and anybody outside will get a little bit tanner, but I don't think cities will be wiped off the map.
The tanning ring.
Yeah.
So what about that though? So
could Zeon have won breaking the treaty? Yeah.
I went and reread what the Antarctic Treaty banned, and super weapons are not on there, but those certainly. Talking about breaking the spirit of the Antarctic Treaty, just because you repackage a nuke some other way, I still think that both sides have broken the treaty at this point. The Federation with the solar system and Zeon with the colony laser.
Well, I'd say that those weapons were both created specifically because of the treaty. They really sidestep it. It's like nowadays with like our outer space treaty, right? That you can't have chemical or nuclear or biological weapons in space, right?
Yep.
But the treaty doesn't say anything about what are they called? Kinetic weapons.
Oh yeah, the rods from God.
Yeah, Project Thor or whatever, where you just drop like a rod of tungsten from a satellite, and then like it falls to Earth with such speed that it's just devastating.
Yep.
Technically it's not a nuclear weapon. It's not a, anything like that.
Imagine you were that lawyer. Imagine you were that lawyer. You were like, you know what, guys? You know what this doesn't say?
It doesn't say we can't drop heavy objects.
Well, you're
There's no heavy object ban. Yeah. So I'd say that depending on what happens, a two-part answer, sorry. Later in the war, breaking the NR Treaty changes almost nothing. Even if that colony that they turned into the solar ray, they strapped some boosters to it and they were going to throw it at Earth, drop it on Earth, colony drop, #colony drop. If they were going to drop it on Earth, the whole Federation fleet is right there anyways. So they're going to blow that thing away and deploy their solar ray early to fight it. So whatever lands on Earth would be minimal compared to Operation British. But if when Rebel's giving a speech that Zeon is exhausted or whatever, maybe Zeon sends a fleet over to Raya or whatever, and they decide to drop one of those neutral colonies on Earth. I think at that point,
why use one of yours?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no need for us to evacuate our own people. Let's just these people want to be neutral. They don't want to be loyal to Zeon. Well, they're going to enjoy the ride down. So I feel like if you break the treaty early when you still have the momentum, going back to your whole momentum strike fast question, what if scenario, Brian? Yeah, I'd give it to Zeon. Zeon could have done it if they just decided that we'll take our chances and just go for using super weapons or not super weapons, but breaking the treaty.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think you can do this in December. I think you got to do this in October, November at the latest. You have to read that writing on the wall, project your attrition out, and project the rise of the Federation's mobile suit program. And if you do both of those things, which maybe someone over there wasn't doing, you should come to that conclusion very quickly that unless we act in a very extreme fashion, we are going to lose.
Yeah, and lose quite fantastically. Operation British supposedly took like almost the whole Zeon fleet, if not the whole fleet. But the Laz is able to pull it off. Granted, he had like maybe inside Federation help or at least the uninvolvement of some of the Federation, and he had help from Anaheim Electronics. But he was able to pull it off with just a few ships.
And a very big nuke.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that was the Federation letting it happen so that the conspirators could create the Titans. And how much of that was... No, Delaz really, he was smart enough to pull it off with half-staffed.
Speaking of all this nuke talk, I think Girin, by firing the colony laser early, I think he wiped out like a third of the Federation fleet, if I recall.
Something like that, yeah.
Whereas Delaz, I believe he wiped out 2/3 of the participating fleet in the naval review in 0083. Federation is bad at losing a lot of stuff at once. It seems they have a problem like grouping up. Like don't do that.
I know I'm pro Zeon, but let me defend the Federation for a second, okay? The Federation didn't know about the solar ray, okay? Maybe they knew it was a weapon or it was under construction, some type of weapon. But Revel clearly would not have been where he was if he knew that the solar ray was going to fire. Actually,
That's
no.
That's true.
Actually, I'll say this. For all we know, Revel was assuming that the Zeon wouldn't dare fire on Dagwin, meeting him at this one location with their fleets.
Yeah, I mean they were going to negotiate peace, right? So
yeah, so even if they knew about the solar ray, he assumed that his fleet was relatively safe. They're having a peace negotiation, and boy was he wrong.
Well, you can't plan for that patricidal rogue son, I suppose.
And about the naval review. Gato was really good at sneaking into that naval review. Do you think that was the bulk of the Federation fleet in 0083? I mean,
I'm pretty sure they made, some comments like, everybody's here or whatever. Either way, sizable portion.
I'll say it was most of the ships, if not all the ships, but definitely most of the ships. Yeah. Oh boy, God, that was terrible.
What a egg on your face moment for sure.
Well, I mean, these Titan conspirators, they really made sure the Federation looked like it was going to be desperate without their strong, iron-fisted rule.
So those were my three ideas of how to potentially, win the war. I thought of two other things that I think are maybe common answers or common thoughts about this, and I don't think they really change anything. One thing some people might think is like, does killing Char win the war, right? Because he's sort of like this rogue agent the whole time, secretly plotting against the zombies. Say they sniffed out his plan earlier and killed him. But I don't think that would actually win them the war. If anything, that would hurt them. I mean, really, all Char did was he kept Amuro at bay for the whole series. If Char's not there, or if he dies earlier, Amuro's going to have a lot less competition, and he's going to do more damage. Char killed Garma, but that wasn't really a big loss. He didn't kill Kycilia until about Ku, and the war was already lost at that point. And so, I mean, I guess you could make the argument if Char wasn't around, then maybe Amuro's skills don't mature at quite a fast pace. So maybe it's a moot point. But Amuro and Char kind of stalemated each other, I think, for the most part throughout the series. I mean, they kind of kept each other in check. If Char wasn't there, I guess Amuro could maybe attack the zombies more directly. But same thing goes for Char. If Amuro's not there, Char would be left unchecked, and he could do more damage to the Federation.
I'm inclined to agree. Char made Amuro a better person without killing him. If Char dies during the 1 Year War, maybe even early on, does Amuro necessarily become a weaker person?
He probably doesn't become as strong of a person.
I think he'd be comparable enough that he would ultimately... Well, okay. Char was kind of the final boss.
Yeah, I mean, he was. And
Yeah.
he introduced Amuro to Lala, which was pretty key in sort of accelerating or awakening his new type abilities. So maybe he's not quite as good, but you're right. He's still going to be a good pilot. I mean, he got into Gundam right away and took out Izaku. So that's better than most of the gym pilots can do.
What poor soul do they throw into the Zeon and send out at Ku? Is it Lala? Ooh.
I don't know. Maybe. Well, no. I mean, Lala was dead at that point.
No, that's true.
So I don't know. I mean, it was kind of just there. Maybe they weren't planning on sending it out at all, which that's a whole nother question. Like, you have this great mobile suit. When are you using it when you're going to lose?
Would it have been better if it had legs? Would Char have won if it had legs?
They said it was 100% functional and the legs were cosmetic in space. So I guess not.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. You know why? Because almost every mobile suit we see in space has vernier thrusters on their legs. And every pilot in space has a mobile suit with legs, except unless you're in like a ball or some horrible experimental mobile suit or something.
I mean, I guess they are useful, right? I mean, you could land on debris, you can land on ships. So they're basically landing gear. But you're right, they do have a lot of thrusters on them, and sometimes they store weapons. So
yeah,
I don't think they're totally useless either. Yeah.
They just said that to Char to make him feel better before they sent him out to combat.
Maybe it was a backdoor sabotage on Kycilia's part. Oh yeah, it's fine. You should totally take it out. It'll really work out.
Even Kycilia was smart enough to like pep him up before she sends him out to go fight. Yeah.
And then the last thing I thought of was, a lot of people might say, oh well, maybe Zeon should have invested more in new types to win the war. I don't think there's enough new types to make that much of a difference that late in the war, because I think it's in either the last episode or one of the last episodes of the original series, Kycilia kind of laments. She says like, oh, we should have looked into a new type sooner, or maybe like Giran didn't appreciate new types the way he should have. And it certainly would help, but would it really win the war? I don't know. I mean, I think we only really saw 3 new type machines. The one that Shaliable piloted, which I think was called the Bro, the Elmith, which is what Lala piloted, and the Zeon, which is what Char piloted. So old type tech seemed to be working just fine towards the end, the Gelgoog and the Big Zom. So maybe just make more Big Zoms.
That was Dozo's plan, right? He did say, we're going to mass produce these across the Federation under our Big Zom feet.
Yeah, they just need more Dozels is what they needed.
Yeah, I can't see too many pilots being so gung-ho. But then again, I guess if like Zeon had a bunch of people inside Big Zom, they'd probably be pretty aggressive too.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, they could have invested more in new types, but they didn't get their new type stuff ready to go until the end of the war. And at that point, they had already pretty much lost it. And I think like we said, they probably needed to win it a few months earlier, and it doesn't seem like that new type tech would be available yet.
I agree. It would come too late, much like comparing Germany and World War II, since they're pretty much Zeon. That's what the whole One Year War is based on. They had, invented jets near the end of the war, which are obviously much better than propeller planes, but at a certain point, new technology or not, it's too late. You're going to lose the war anyways. It doesn't matter what your scientists have cooked up or discovered. Just the enemies are at the gates. You're outnumbered. You're depleted of resources, and the game's over.
On that point, what you said about Girin, about telling Makuve to just, launch all the ICBMs against all the major cities, I feel like that's just being a sore loser. That's like bad form, right? Like, it seems in bad taste.
Well, not only that, but I also feel like, he's pretty much trying to ruin the world, right? Because he would not be able to control it. I'd almost feel like that was maybe underestimating the Federation also, because by that point in the war, fighting had been going on for a while. So I would be very surprised if the Federation had not developed considerable air defenses.
Yeah, that's true.
So Girin might have had that order in place, but even if Makuve carried it out, I don't think we would have seen destruction on the scale that Girin would have wanted.
Well, good on Makuve for
not
pressing that button.
I mean, nobody likes him. I don't think there's any Makuve fans. But you know what? He did the one right thing that he should have done.
Is Makuve the real hero here?
Ooh, Makuve saved the Earth, huh? To an extent. Well, like I just said, either he saved the Earth or it would have been saved anyways by Federation air defense. But in any case, he took the right action, and for that we thank you, Makuve. We don't like you, but we thank you.
He is akin to those people, I think, was it the 90s or the 80s, when we almost had World War III due to like a flock of birds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It flew through a radar and they thought it was a nuke.
He's the Soviet commander that looked at the radar screen and his panicking radar technicians, and he told them, no, there's no way the Americans are attacking.
Yeah, they're not that stupid.
Yeah. They wouldn't attack with 5 missiles.
So, in summary, it sounds like we think Zeon could have won the war had they used their mobile suit advantage alongside breaking the Antarctic Treaty and striking surgically and swiftly earlier on in the war, well before December rolled around.
Okay, well, that was a pretty good what if episode, I think. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, and man, it really makes you think.
These are the things that keep Isaac and I awake at night.
Yeah, I'll text Brian at 3 a.m. and like, wait, what if
Zeon
had legs?
I really think those legs, he could have had more thrust.
What if they nuked Raya? Comment below what you thought a good what if scenario would be for the 1 year war. Maybe you have an idea about what if a certain character was in a certain place at a certain time. Maybe an individual was killed earlier. Maybe a battle went a different way. Comment below. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Let us know. Smash that like button. Just like Char smashed Cecilia's face with that rocket.
Is that Char? It sure is. Yeah, right in her neck.
That was like the strongest rocket. Went right through the glass, hit her right in the head, decapitated her.
That was a great shot, I must say.
It was. Well, new type,